So in this video, I want to talk about trimming a bowl. And here are the items that you'll need. We have our needle tool, our large loop tool, our smaller double-sided loop tool, flexible red rubber rib, or your flexible metal rib could work, your sponge, some water, splash pan can be there to catch any of your trimmings, and of course your leather hard pot, and you'll need some moist clay. I have wrapped in plastic here. So I threw this bowl yesterday. I let it set out and dry until the rim was just hard enough that it wouldn't record a fingerprint, and I could flip this over so the bottom would dry. Now this is at leather hard. I can just dent the clay with my finger, but it's not tacky, it's not squishy, it's leather hard all the way through. And that's what you'll need when you're trimming. If the clay is too wet, it'll stick to your trimming tools and stick to your pot, and we want to see the clay trim away and fly away from the pot. So what we're looking for, the finished product, at least with this style of bowl, is to create a foot ring similar to this on the bottom here. So we're going to be removing a lot of excess clay from there. Now, this foot ring in the rim of the pot, they have a similar visual weight to them. It's about the same thickness there as it is here, and that gives a nice design relationship between the foot and the rim of your pot. A foot ring is nice. It can be a handle. It also elevates the piece up off the table and keeps your bowl flat on the table as well. The next step for us to do here is to look at our bowl and plan how we're going to trim it. So we want to look at the interior and really memorize that shape. Think about how it's pretty steep here, and then there's a transition, and then the bottom still has a little bit of a dome in there. So I'm really kind of thinking about the shape of the interior. So when I turn it over, I want to mimic that shape on the exterior. I'm feeling the thickness of the walls and thinking about where the wall starts to get thicker and where I want to start to trim away. And what I'll do is I'll feel that thickness, and where it starts to get thicker, and I know that I want to trim clay away, I'm going to just take my fingernail and put a little mark there. And that tells me that everything below that mark is thin enough and doesn't need to be trimmed. And everything above that mark will need to be trimmed. I'm memorizing this interior space. I'm thinking about the shape of this rim. So when I trim the foot ring, I can make a foot ring that will echo the sentiments of the rim here. So now we're ready to center our pot. We'll set the pot down as close as we can to the center of the wheel. Could spin the wheel slowly and just visualize to see if it's on center, and maybe make a few adjustments that way. What I'm doing is I'm just seeing where it's off center and where it's swinging out. I'll try to bring that edge back towards the center some more. Now this is really hard to do just visually. So what we can do is we can use our needle tool to help us center the pot. So we'll get as close as we can, and then we'll turn the wheel on slowly, and I'm going to very slowly move my needle tool towards the bowl. So just very slowly. As I get really close, I'm going to go even slower until it starts to touch. Now when I turn the wheel off and I look at that line that was drawn by my needle tool, that shows me that this area is the furthest off center. If I go to the beginning of that line and the end of that line, the middle is the furthest off center. So I want to bring that as close to center as possible. So I'm just going to scoot it back and I'll smooth out that line, and then I'll repeat that process. Now when it's totally on center, as you get closer and closer, that line will get longer, the line that gets drawn. And it may even just go all the way around. That means you're on center. There we go, my line goes all the way around. It feels really on center. So now I want to take my moist clay I'll make a coil and take sections of that coil, 3 sections. I'm going to hold the pot down and press the coil of clay down against the wheel and allow it to squish up against the pot. I don't want to press the clay against the pot because this clay might want to stick to it, but I want to press it down against the wheel and have it squish to the pot. And we'll do that 3 places around. So holding it down so it doesn't move, squishing the clay against the wheel. Another issue is sometimes the rim of your pot might be a little uneven. If your rim is uneven, then maybe the bowl sits at a little bit of an angle, and then that would cause a problem when you're trimming. So ideally you want to have the rim be nice and parallel with the bottom. So this surface and this surface are parallel. If your rim is a little uneven, you want this to be sitting level to the wheel head. One thing you can do when you're centering your pot is you can shim. You can put a little bit of clay underneath. So if your bowl sits on the wheel head at a little bit of an angle like that, you can put a little bit of clay underneath of it on the edge that's low to make it as level as possible.